Venezuela, Southcom announced that it was going to be conducting flight exercises over Guyana today. Is that timing meant to send a message to President Maduro about U.S. support for Guyana and its territorial integrity?
I'd be careful drawing too strong connective tissue between routine military operations that we do in the region and this particular issue. That said, as I said before, we recognize the sovereign territory of Guyana, and as we do with many nations, sovereign nations in the region, we conduct operations and exercises as appropriate.
How far would the U.S. be willing to go to show that support? Would it be willing to help Guyana maintain that territorial integrity?
You mean militarily?
Yes.
I'm not going to speculate about that kind of a thing. What I said yesterday stands. We want the internationally recognized border recognized. We want these two sides to work it out diplomatically. We've already expressed our support for the 1899 arbitral award, which set that boundary. And as I also said yesterday, we don't want to see this come to blows. There's no reason for it to.
What's up, it's cinemashogun here, and now is the time to start paying attention to what's going on in South America between Venezuela and Guyana. I honestly believe that this conflict is more concerning, at least for Americans, than any other conflict going on in the world right now. Don't get me wrong. This conflict won't impact the world in the way that the war in Ukraine has impacted the world. I don't think this conflict in South America has the potential to blow up as big as what we're seeing in the Middle East with Israel. I don't think it will have the same sort of effect on the international society, if you will. However, I do think that this conflict provides the most likely chance that we see U.S. boots on the ground. And here's why I say that. Obviously, America is involved with the war in Ukraine and Russia, right? But you see, Ukraine has they had a pretty big military. Ukraine needed money and support to fight the war, but they didn't necessarily need manpower. And then when you look at Israel, sure, America is helping Israel, but Israel kind of has this handled themselves. Israel can handle Gaza themselves. Israel can handle a lot of these surrounding enemies themselves. Sure, the U.S. may send some money and some weapons, but they don't necessarily need U.S. boots on the ground, at least not yet, right? Now, when you look at the situation in Guyana, Guyana has a military. They don't have a navy. I'm not sure if they have an air force. But I know their military is roughly around 4,000 to 6,000 troops strong. 4,000 to 6,000 troops. Venezuela has over 200,000 troops. And that's before they even call up their reserves and before they get, the nation ready for war and people start signing up. So when we're looking at the situation in Guyana, we're not only dealing with the situation where, they're going to need money and military equipment, but they're also going to need manpower. You can give Guyana all the money and all of the weapons that we can afford. They're not going to be able to fight off a Venezuelan invasion with roughly around 4,000 to 6,000 troops. It's not going to work out. If they are invaded, they're going to need manpower. They're going to need boots on the ground, meaning your kids, your grandkids, your uncles, your brothers, your husbands, your daughters, your wives. In order for Guyana to successfully defend itself from an invasion, they're going to need soldiers from the U.S. And that's why I say this is slightly more concerning than a lot of the other military conflicts we have going on. I don't believe this conflict has the ability to blow up into some type of world devastating conflict like the one in Ukraine and with Israel. Don't get me wrong. But I do think there's a huge chance that if this happens, fingers crossed that it doesn't, it looks like it is going to happen. I think there's a huge chance that we see our soldiers on the ground fighting to protect Guyana's border. Meanwhile, we refuse to protect our own border. And I think the rest of the world is looking at us right now laughing. Because literally, right now, we are helping Ukraine protect their borders. We're helping Israel protect their borders. We are a couple of days away, possibly, any moment now, from possibly having troops on the ground in South America protecting Guyana's borders. But we're not protecting ours. I think the world is laughing at us because of that. And if you're thinking, oh, the U.S. isn't going to send troops over there, we already have. That's the thing, folks. Before you even knew that this conflict was stirring about, the U.S. military was already there. As we speak, they're conducting their little training exercises, getting ready. And I don't understand how we live in a country where most young people can't afford a home. You can't afford gas. You can't afford groceries. Yet, we're sending Ukraine billions of dollars. We sent our Navy. We're sending money and weaponry to Israel every day. And now, troops are already in South America preparing for the inevitable. Troops who, by the way, are in a very bad, dangerous position right now. If you think Vietnam was crazy, think about fighting in South America with these soldiers who have been preparing for years for something like this, who know the ins and outs of their territory. And you're dropping 18 and 19-year-old U.S. soldiers over in Guyana to protect their border. They have no idea of their whereabouts, their surroundings. They're unfamiliar with their surroundings. It's a recipe for disaster. But we're headed there. We are headed there as we speak. And listen, I want you all to understand that I tried to play it safe when it came to this story. I've been watching this situation play out for a few weeks. I haven't said much about it. I mentioned it on Twitter. Follow me over there if you haven't already. But I really wanted to see if this is something serious or is this just another one of those scares? And boy, oh boy, is it serious. Venezuela is moving their military around. We got Brazil sending troops trying to block the road from Venezuela to Guyana. So it looks as if Brazil may get involved as well. All around crazy situation. But before I go any further, I want to go ahead and roll these news clips, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Considering that Venezuela really isn't recognizing the ICJ, you're saying let it settle the dispute. You could see a situation where Venezuela goes ahead and tries to interfere in your efforts to open up leasing contracts for oil companies. Oil discovered there back in 2015. This could escalate. What nations have voiced support for you, and what are you willing to do to defend what you say is your territory?
So let me just make a correction. Venezuela is saying that they will not participate, but Venezuela has already participated in the process at the ICJ because Venezuela went twice to the ICJ on the issue of jurisdiction, and the ICJ ruled against Venezuela, saying that the ICJ has jurisdiction to look at this matter. So I think the narrative that they're not recognizing or participating in the ICJ, that narrative is really one of a double standard, because they have already participated in the process of the ICJ. They've already gone to the ICJ to seek a ruling on the jurisdiction of the court, and the court ruled twice in favor of Guyana. Now, we have had the OAS in full support of us, the Commonwealth Group of Countries in full support of us. We have had CARICOM leaders issuing strong statements, and we have had various leaders across the globe. I've been reaching out because our first line of defense is diplomacy, and we have been reaching out to leaders. The U.S. is strong support of Guyana, and also countries, India. We have raised this with India. We have even raised this with Cuba, countries that have a very close relationship with Venezuela, so that they can encourage Venezuela to do what is right and to ensure that they do not act in a reckless or adventurous manner that can disrupt the peace within the zone. But we are also preparing for the worst case scenario. We are preparing with our allies, with our friends, to ensure that we are in a position to defend what is ours that's secure.
Now, let me know if this sounds familiar to you. The people of Guyana are accusing Venezuela of getting prepared to stage a false flag so they have an excuse to invade Guyana. Now, Guyana claims that Venezuela is going to use indigenous people to do so. And guess what just happened? Or guess what's been happening over the past couple of days? Allegedly, there's videos out there as well, Venezuela has been taking indigenous people, indigenous tribes, okay? And when I say tribes, I mean like the tribes you visualize. They're taking indigenous people who really have nothing to do with the outside world. They're taking these tribes that you would only see on the Discovery Channel. They're putting them in helicopters, and they're flying them to this disputed region in Guyana, and they're dropping the indigenous people off there. And they're telling these people, hey, this is your land now. We claim it back. This doesn't belong to them. This belongs to you. So now, Venezuela has displaced all of these indigenous tribes right here in the middle of Guyana in this disputed territory. These tribes are going around, they're taking down flags, and what it appears is happening here, or this is what Guyana thinks is going to happen. It seems as if Venezuela is putting these indigenous people there, hoping that Guyana does something. Maybe they take military action, maybe they try to kick these people out of the region, and then Venezuela is going to use that as their excuse to invade. So basically, Venezuela is going around the jungles, collecting tribe members, putting them in helicopters, and dropping them smack dab in the middle of another country, telling them this is your land now, and if Guyana does or says anything about it, we're going to invade and we're going to war. So that's wild. It's wild to think about. It's a wild sight to see. I've been watching videos of it all day. Hopefully YouTube allows me to show you all some clips. But that's what's happening right now. And as that is happening, the world superpowers are having meetings. The Pentagon, the U.S. military, they're already having meetings preparing for what may or may not happen. Hopefully, things don't get worse. But right now, if what happened in Ukraine and what's happening in the Middle East right now is any indicator of what's to come, then go ahead and buckle your seatbelts. Buckle your seatbelts. But for now, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you're feeling generous and you want to support the channel, you can do so directly via Cash App. I will have my Cash App in the pinned comment of this video, or you can donate to the channel via Super Thanks, or for free, you can help the channel in many ways by liking the video, subscribing, ringing that notification bell, and all of that good stuff. But with that being said, I will talk to you all soon in the next video.